In honor of a commenter who called me a fuckface for not understanding what headroom means and inappropriately keying a keyframe, I'm going to inappropriately key a keyframe and completely ignore the need for headroom.
Not to kind of do the thing where everything is kind of compared to Hitler, but this is like neutrally playing a speech by Hitler or Milo Yiannopoulos from Gamergate. This is the kind of thing that departmentally, in terms of like critical communication studies and in terms of the course of what we're trying to do, is diametrically opposed to everything that we've been talking about in the lectures.
But besides being called a fuckface on the internet, which is to be expected, right? I love you all. I want to read the open letter from Nathan Rambukkana to Lindsay Shepard. Now, a few days ago, some audio was leaked from a meeting between 3 university staff and 1 TA, or master's student, where those 3 administrative staff ganged up on the student for showing a short Jordan Peterson clip.
Nick, can I be clear on something? You've accused him of abusing students by not using the pronouns they want to be addressed by.
That's how I see it, absolutely.
That is tantamount to abuse in your view?
Absolutely. Many global documents, many
How
organizations.
about violence? Is it tantamount to violence?
Yes,
How about
absolutely.
hate speech? Is it tantamount to hate speech?
Yes, of course. It's hate speech
Fine,
to tell
that's-
someone that you won't refer to them as in a way that they that recognizes their humanity and dignity.
You can go back and find the link and see what this is about, but I just want to read this letter. Dated November 21st, 2017. Dear Lindsay, I wanted to write to apologize to you for how the meeting we had proceeded. While I was not able to do so earlier due to confidentiality concerns, including your privacy as a grad student, her privacy was stopping him from apologizing? Now that the audio of the meeting is public, I can say more. Yeah, you certainly can. While I still cannot discuss the student concerns raised about the tutorial, everything that has happened since the meeting has given me occasion to rethink not only my approach to discussing the concerns that day, but many of the things I said in our meeting as well. First, I wanted to say that when I was made aware of the concerns, I was told that the proper procedure would be to have an informal meeting to discuss it. In the process of arranging this, others indicated they should attend as well.
I've always been interested in the relationship between ideas and media. And in particular, I've been interested in those ideas that are concerned with economic and social justice and the degree to which they may or may not be taken up by the mainstream mass media.
This is one of the facets of working at a university, that meetings can often become de facto committees due to relevant stakeholders being pulled in. My main concerns were finding out why a lesson on writing skills had become a political discussion and making sure harm didn't befall students. However, in not also prioritizing my mentorship role as the course director and your supervisor, I didn't do enough to try to support you in this meeting, which I deeply regret. Yeah. I don't know if he didn't so much as not try to support her enough as completely grill her.
But what I have a problem with is I didn't target anybody. Who did I target?
Trans folks.
How? By telling them ideas that are really out there? By telling them that? By telling them? Really?
It's not just telling them in legitimizing this as a valid perspective, as this is another valid perspective.
In a
on these
university,
issues.
all perspectives are valid.
That's not necessarily true, Lindsay.
Well, this is something that's being debated in current society, and I don't feel the need to shield people from what's going on in society. Like,
Okay.
to imagine that this is happening in university, it's bad.
Okay, so
Bad.
just to give you a context.
I should have seen how meeting with a panel of 3 people would be an intimidating situation and not invite a productive discussion. It wasn't just that there were 3 people there. It was the manner in which he was cornering her and explicitly stating that debate is not an option, that her job is not to foster discourse across difference, but to basically to instill a certain perspective into the students.
So, by proxy of me showing you the video, I'm transphobic and I caused harm and violence. So be it. I can't do anything to control that.
Okay, so that's not something that you have an issue with? The fact that that happened? Like,
I don't know, again, I don't know what they said, but I don't think I gave away any kind of political position of mine. I remained very neutral, and
that's kind of the problem.
Had I tried harder to create a situation more conducive to talking these issues through, things might have gone very differently, but alas, I did not. Second, this entire occasion, and hearing from so many with passionate views on this issue from across the political spectrum, has made me seriously rethink some of the positions I took in this meeting. I made the argument that first-year students, not studying this topic specifically, might not have the toolkit to unpack or process a controversial view such as Dr. Peterson's, saying that such material might be better reserved for upper year or grad courses. The toolkit. The toolkit, these young people don't have the immune system to deny these views or to attack these views, or even the digestive system to munch on these views yet. These young first-year students might not. I don't think, this isn't like upper grade chemistry. This is just a political discussion, but this is what he thinks. Toolkit. While I still think that such material needs to be handled carefully, especially so as not to infringe on the rights of any of our students or make them feel unwelcome in the learning environment, I believe you are right that making a space for controversial or oppositional views is important and even essential to a university. The trick is how to properly contextualize such material. That's one of those words. What does he mean by that? What do you mean by properly contextualize? One way might be through having readings or a lecture on the subject before discussion, but you are correct that first years should be eligible to engage with societal debates in this way. Perhaps instead of the route I took, I should have added further discussion in lecture or supplementary readings. But instead, I tried to make a point about the need to contextualize difficult material, and drew on the example of playing a speech by Hitler to do it. He did. This was obviously a poorly chosen example. It wasn't just poorly chosen, it was the first thing that came to mind, which shows you that that was the extent that he had thought through this, that automatically goes straight to Hitler when somebody brings up Jordan Peterson. That's how deeply he's engaged with Jordan Peterson, with this material himself, that he's already casting it in this huge, the evil of our time kind of light. This was obviously a poorly chosen example. I meant to use it to drive home a point about context by saying here was material that would definitely need to be contextualized rather than presented neutrally. And instead I implied that Dr. Peterson is like Hitler and Gamergate, which is untrue and was never my intention, except that that's exactly what he did. They're the ones who grilled her about the difference between what you intended to do and your effect, right? They're the ones who did this. And now he's like, well, that wasn't my intention.
It's more about the effect rather than the intention. If that, obviously that wasn't your intention, but nevertheless, it disturbed and upset students enough.
So everything's about those students who are disturbed. Everything is catered to them.
Right. So now the tables have turned on him, and he's completely acting like a hypocrite. Like that rhetorical maneuver has now blown up in his face. While I disagree strongly with many of Dr. Peterson's academic positions and actions,
or targeting of trans students, in a particular, basically doxing them, if you know the term, giving out their personal information so that they will be attacked, harassed, so that death threats will find them. This is something that he has done to his own students.
The tired analogy does him a disservice and was the opposite of useful in our discussion. Good thing he admitted that. Finally, there's the question of teaching from a social justice perspective, which my course does attempt to do. I write elsewhere about reaching across the aisle to former alt-right figures as possible unexpected allies in the struggle to create a better, more just society for all. But hearing all the feedback from people and looking at the polarized response, I am beginning to rethink so limited an approach. But hearing all the feedback from people and looking at the polarized response. Now, polarized means that there's two camps. So I wonder if there is a big, huge camp that's defending him, or if it's just most people just saying, dude, you screwed up. Polarized. Disingenuous. Maybe we ought to strive to reach across all of our multiple divisions, to find points where we can discuss such issues, air multiple perspectives, and embrace the diversity of thought. And maybe I have to get out of an us versus them habit of thought to do this myself, and to think of the goal as more than simply advancing social justice, but social betterment and progress as a whole. While I think that such a pedagogical approach must still work not to marginalize some students, I think the issues are too complex to leave as a binary, with protection of students on one side and protection of speech on the other. We should be striving for both, which is why I look forward to participating in Dr. Malachi's task force looking into these issues at Laurier, and I hope perhaps you might consider doing the same so we could together work towards an even stronger institutional future. I'm sorry this came to pass the way it did, and look forward to moving past this and continue working with you as my TA, and perhaps in the future. Yours sincerely, Dr. Nathan Rambukkana. There's also a letter from the president and vice chancellor. I read the president letter to myself, and it's just one of those just diffuse, not going to say anything while making motions towards fixing the situation kind of thing. We're going to make a task force. We're going to make a task force. Jesus. But anyways, so I do find it promising that at least this guy, unlike the evergreen teachers, he's publicly recognizing his mistake. Like he's publicly saying, okay, maybe the way I'm thinking about this is a little different than the way it should be, or maybe the way I'm thinking about it isn't as productive as it could be, which I give him credit for, seeing how the evergreen teachers are basically going, no, we're not doing anything wrong, leave us alone, and there's going to be more about that later. Anyway, so sorry about the lack of headroom and that strip of not keyed material over there. Teacher, reach in the freezer, hand me an ice pack, I'm in pain. And Lisa wrote over my hand with her bite, not on purpose, it was a mistake. But teacher, I'm in so much pain.